Welcome to Holly's Pandorium, featuring your host, psychic medium Holly Jordan.
Hey, we're back. This is Holly from Holly's Pandorium, and I am here with my very special friend today, Johnny Ketchup. Hello, Johnny.
Hello, Holly. What a pleasure to see your smiling face.
Oh, ditto. I'm so excited. And I know people can't really see this, but I'm wearing my Christmas apron today because I am making cookies and I am having a blast. Our kitchen is a total disaster. I had to mop it this morning because there was sugar everywhere, but it was worth it. Because
Oh
it
my,
smells
I bet your house smells wonderful.
Oh, it does. It does. I woke up and it was like, I smell sugar. I mean, it was just so awesome. It was too fun. I just love it. What's your favorite Christmas cookie, Johnny?
Oh, I like Snickerdoodle. I'm big on the Snickerdoodle. I'm not big on a lot of too many combinations in my sweets.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I think I'm going to try and do some more gingerbread this year. I did some a couple years ago, and they were really good. They're really good. Today, I'm making Scottish shortbread, and that is a favorite because it's not super sweet. It's simple, and it just kind of melts in your mouth, and to me, it's full of good memories. I just love that. It's that stirring of emotion and joy all at once. Plus, there's sugar in it, which I don't eat very often. So, woohoo!
I could sit on the couch for hours with shortbread and milk and just reminisce about childhood. Boy, the memories that brings.
Oh, heck yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So today, Johnny, we are going to talk about one of your most fun stories that I love. I have heard it before and I love this story. And this happened, let me just double check and verify a detail really quick. This happened in Washington or Oregon?
No, Northern California.
Oh, I was totally off on that. Interesting. Okay, cool. That's funny because this is a Bigfoot story, and I saw a Bigfoot in Northern California when I was a kid. So I love that. Okay, right. So let's give me the setting. What were you doing? How old were you? What time was it, day or night? Let's get some details. Let's set some ground details on this. What happened?
Yeah, let's do. And this is fun. And what a great way to start out with us discovering that this is a Northern California sighting, because doesn't Northern California just look like where you would see a Sasquatch?
Yes,
it does to me. I was in my teens, and my father was a truck driver and semi driver, and he asked me to come along with him on a run to California. On our way back, we stopped somewhere to rest. There was quite a bit of trees and nature about. I don't believe it was an actual truck stop or rest stop. I'm not sure. It was quite some time ago, as I'm pushing 300 at this point. So, but anyways, we pulled over, and Dad was going to take a nap. I wasn't tired, and I was going to go out and take a walk. And I've been into harvesting wild mushrooms since I was a kid. I hunt, I fish. I'm all about nature, and I just love that kind of thing. So I went for a little walk in the woods. Well, there were typical woods sounds. You hear the buzzing of the insects and the chirping of the birds, and maybe a branch breaks here and there, but the whole place just went dead silent. It went dead silent, and I could feel it inside of myself. As a hunter, I'm a bow hunter, and I spent a lot of quiet time in the woods.
Right.
You get to learn the behaviors of the animals. When you're doing that, I'm usually by myself, so I can experience and feel, taste, smell, sense everything.
Right.
So I'm in tune with this kind of thing. It went completely silent.
Wow. That's intense, though.
It was intense. And I could feel it in everything that I am, that something was amidst. So I just stood up against a tree, and I just stood there, and I watched, and I looked around, and I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear any footsteps. I didn't hear any crunching of branches. Mind you, some creatures don't care what kind of noise they make.
Yes.
and some do.
Yes.
You'll never hear a mountain lion crunching branches as it walks. It's as
Right.
stealthy as can be, and they've learned that
Yeah.
from thousands and thousands of years of teaching each other that.
True.
Well, here I was in the woods, and everything went completely quiet. And I look across me, and we're only talking maybe 20 yards, if that. Very close. And
Wow.
the trees were pretty big. I think they were sequoia, redwood, that
Sure.
type, right? Or Northern
Right.
California type of trees.
Right.
I didn't see the full figure. But what
Okay.
I did see was probably about 7 to 8 feet tall,
Okay.
with brown hair, probably about 5 inches long and wavy.
Okay.
It was upright. It
Okay.
walked around the tree. It didn't look at me. It didn't, nothing. I just was, well, I was as quiet as a mouse, and I couldn't think straight. I couldn't see
Right.
straight. I couldn't
Right.
smell straight. Uh,
Right.
but I just watched this thing as it went around the side of the tree. Let's say
Right.
I saw, so here, I'll use my arm. Now, everything on this side over here, that's about what I saw of this thing. So partial head, shoulder, down the
Okay.
side of the body as it just went around the tree. Now,
Okay.
when
Do me a favor, Johnny, for people that are just listening to this story that don't have the visual. Can you explain it just in words what you were doing and
oh
what
yes,
was
I'm sorry, I wasn't aware they were not getting the visual.
No, they're going to
So
get both. So yeah.
let's say if you split your face, your body down the middle, not
Okay.
literally, not with a broadsword or something. If you just split yourself down the middle and just less than half of your face, shoulder, arm, torso, leg, going around the side of a tree.
Okay.
Enough that we could say it was humanoid primate features.
Okay.
And
Okay.
about
Good.
7 to 8 feet tall with 5 inch long wavy brown hair. I
Okay.
can't think of anything. There are certainly black bears in Northern California.
Oh yeah.
Good luck at one being 5 to 6 feet tall, adults standing up.
Right. Right.
They do occasionally have brown fur, but it's not that length and wavy.
No, that's not true.
No, and it certainly doesn't walk human-like. I've seen bears walk. Yes, bears stand up and walk, but they're strange looking
And
as
they
they
lumber.
walk. Yeah,
They
but
have a lumber box.
correct. As far as
Yeah.
I'm concerned, I saw a Sasquatch that day, and I got to tell you, my heart stopped. It absolutely stopped, and it was just so amazing. And then what do? I mean, I go back to the truck, wake my dad up. Dad, wake up, wake up! I saw a Bigfoot. I saw a Bigfoot.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't believe me.
Of course.
Get in the truck, kid. Let's go. You know?
Right. No, can't you bother me?
For all he knew, I was trying to trick him into something in the woods because,
Sure.
I'm kind of that way, kind of a tricky little
Right.
fella sometimes.
Right.
But yeah, that was my experience with that. I'll never forget how well, it's interesting. The emotions that went through me were loneliness, fear,
Okay.
emptiness. Let's call it singularity. It made me feel how small and insignificant I am in
Yeah.
all of this.
Yeah.
There's just so much that we think we know that we don't. We
Right.
really don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, science will go out of its way to disprove us of things that science doesn't want us to know about.
Right.
There are plenty of scientists that will lean one way or another depending on what you're filling this hand up with or this hand up with. And both of those hands are out for money. So
Yeah.
I don't listen to a lot of science. I don't listen to a lot of scientists, especially modern scientists, because once again, they're rather than trying to discover, see, science used to be about discovery.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's about trying to disprove everything.
Yeah.
So I just back off from that and just this. I won't call it a spiritual experience, though it could fall in that category. But perhaps I can't even find a human experience. I can't really find a term for it. But I'll tell you what, it was amazing. and wonderful, and how blessed of a thing that occurred to me. And I hope that anybody else out there that likes to tromp around the woods has such a pleasant experience. And if you do, be sure to get hold of Holly and tell her all about it.
Yeah, because we love to hear stories. That's what we're all about. We want to hear this. So I'm curious. So after this happened to you, I imagine, as with myself and most people, you kind of replay stuff in your mind, like, what exactly did I see? And no, I know what I saw. I know what I believe. Did Bigfoot become more on the radar for you after that, after seeing that?
Absolutely. And I listen for, and I look for, and I watch for everywhere I go now.
Nice.
I've found plenty of footprints. And we're
Have you?
talking, 15, 16, 17, 18-inch long footprints in the middle of nowhere. And these are not boot prints because they've got toes,
Right.
I live in the Willamette Valley of Oregon,
Mm-hmm.
and I live at the westernmost part of it. Let's imagine it as a triangle, and the tallest point of the triangle is pointing towards the ocean. I live at the tip of that triangle. So I'm just before the mountain range that goes to the ocean, which is so I'm 30 minutes away from the ocean. So this is prime Bigfoot forest, rainforest, what have you.
Yes.
2 years ago, I was up on what they call Bald Mountain, which is outside of Willamina, Oregon. I was up there bow hunting.
Right.
And as I came into the trail, mind you, I'm very, very well versed on the sounds of wild animals.
Right. Right.
But something, and it started before I got to my destination. Let's say I stopped at a spot and I got out to look around for elk. That's what I was looking for.
Okay.
I heard something that sounded, let's say, a combination between a gorilla and a death metal singer.
That's quite a combination.
And it was off in the woods. It was off in the woods, and this noise was like.
Okay.
It was just crazy, and it was even more deep than that, more guttural.
Wow.
And it certainly wasn't a bear or a cat.
Okay.
But so I kind of got scared and stayed by my truck, of course, and then I drove up. Yeah, I drove up about another mile up the road to where I was going to actually hunt. I got out of the truck. I walked in maybe 150 yards, and it happened there as well.
Oh wow!
And it was terrifying because once again I'm up there alone. I'm a bow hunter. So what does that mean? That means I'm walking through the forest with a sharp stick.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I don't have a firearm on me.
Right.
Right.
So, how many years ago was this, Johnny?
Oh, this was last year.
Last year. Okay, yes, so 2022.
Yes, yes.
That's incredible. Wow.
And I'm not the only one that says they've heard that sound up there. So.
Right. Oh yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
It's something there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it.
It was such an amazing sound, and I mean, I'll never be able to duplicate it or understand it, but it's just, I mean, and if you spend a lot of time doing something or in an area, you become so familiar with those sounds and the feelings of that environment. And when you hear something that you know is not the norm, it just really sticks with you. Yeah.
Well, of course. And especially anybody that's been outside in the woods knows there's an ambient noise. There's just this wonderful, calming sound of everything between the rustling of the foliage and the birds and, little insects and you name it, frogs, squirrels. There's just this little bit of noise that's constantly going, and it's soothing and calming and mellow. And then, like Johnny said, I know what he's talking about. When you hear other animals, you learn. It becomes part of the experience when you're outside. If you're not living in an area listening to this story and you're not someone that's been out in the woods where there's a lot of trees, and I've said this before, we're in the Pacific Northwest. And so our environment is dense. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we walk around when we go out in the woods. There's a lot of things that we step on. There's a lot of things that we smell and see. And the sound part of the experience of walking out in the woods is in depth. It's a lot of layers of little things. So when he's talking about, years of going hunting and getting used to familiar sounds, you can imagine that. You can imagine what that sounds like. Just like when you're in a city and just the ambient noises of a city, the buses and the traffic and the restaurants and the utility vehicle sounds and all that. It's the same kind of idea. It's just something you become in tune with and familiar with.
It is indeed. There's
Yeah.
so another time, and I didn't actually see something, but my youngest son and myself, we were bow hunting once again, and we were near the Astoria area.
Oh, sure.
There's a stream called Nat Creek,
Okay.
Gnat, Nat Creek, and we like to pick mushrooms around there, hunt,
Okay.
what have you. And Devo, his name is Devo, Devo.
Right.
Devo and I, he must have been maybe 14 or 15 years old, and we had hiked up a mountain behind the Nat Creek fish hatchery, and once again, that thing where you can feel, and we were there. Typically, if something is amidst, the pine squirrels will start chirping, beep, 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 and they'll go from tree to tree, following whatever's walking through the woods, making noise, alerting, especially if it's a predator. It's a predator, they do that. Same thing with the blue jays. The blue jays do that. They'll follow a predator making noise. But nothing made noise in Northern California when I saw what I believe to be Sasquatch. So this time, Devo and I were up on the mountain, and everything's making its own sounds. And before it stopped, Devo and I would just both stopped with chills. And I looked at him and I said, "Son, do you feel like something's watching us?" He says, "Yeah, I can feel it inside of me. Something's watching us." And then it went completely silent.
Yeah.
Not a frog, not a bird, not a squirrel, not a bug, nothing, not a sound. And it became so, you could feel it so deeply inside. We just left. We went home. I wasn't going to risk my son's life, certainly.
Correct.
Over that. Could have been a mountain lion, could have been a bear, but I don't think so, because once again, the smaller critters like to alert the rest of the forest when there's a predator around.
Yeah. So I would say that's probable, just because I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I get that. Because normally there is some chatter and some warning and something's coming. But yeah, that's incredible.
It's almost as though they have a relationship, a Sasquatch and these other critters. That's just like, hey, be quiet. Just let me have my quiet time walking through the forest or whatever I'm doing. You don't need to alert anybody. I'm not hurting anyone. Just everybody be calm.
That's amazing. That is amazing. I love the stories you have. They're wonderful. And now there's another type of story that you have that's very unique and incredible. And this is not just something that you went through, but it was part of your family.
Yes. And it can be very emotional for me. So as you started talking, I was totally okay with it. Then you got about 8 words in, and I started getting a little bit sweaty and a little bit of shaky inside and what have you. So, shall we?
Yes, we shall.
When I was a small child living with my parents, I was a bedwetter.
Yes.
What do you think of that? I was a bedwetter. There you go, world. I just admitted to you I was a bedwetter when I was a little kid. But hold on. Wait. There was a reason for that.
Yes.
I would be awakened as a small child by what are called the Greys. Small, big-headed, red-eyed, and or black-eyed alien-type beings. They would wake me, and I couldn't move. I was stuck in place. I couldn't yell. I couldn't scream. And if I tried to yell out, it would go something like this. Like there's nothing. I was under complete control.
Freaky.
They would take me to a place. I'm not sure how we got there, but it was instantaneous. They would
Okay.
take me to a place that was, it felt flesh-like.
Okay.
Excuse me. So imagine in our in Hollywood and these films, what have you, when we think of spacecraft and sci-fi, we think Star Wars, Star Trek. We think of these metal type vehicles and
Right.
humanoids of all different kinds. But
Right.
this was some kind of, if it was in fact a vessel,
Hmm.
it was something that was made of, let's say, tripe.
Okay. Okay.
It was much like tripe. I would say
Interesting
honeycomb.
texture. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would typically say honeycomb because that was the shape, but tripe
Right.
itself has honeycombs within it, right?
Yes.
But it
Yeah.
had that fleshy, strange feeling. And they
Okay.
would bring me into this place and they would do all kinds of things.
Mhm.
Now I'm going to break away from the typical, I got probed by the aliens thing.
Right.
I don't
Right.
recall that happening, but I do
Right.
recall um, them wanting to inspect my body,
Okay.
perhaps inspect my growth, and
Okay.
or implant things into me to
Okay.
collect data.
Okay.
I didn't like that in the slightest.
Of course not.
Not in the and it was terrifying,
I
and
bet.
nobody would believe me.
Okay.
I was a small child. Let's talk. This probably started when I was 3 or 4 years old.
Okay.
Okay, and this
That's
is
really tiny. Yeah. That's a
yeah,
little kid.
yeah, and it's long before people started speaking out about grays.
Right.
Right, I'm 58 years old, so that was
What area were you living in when this happened?
this was southeast Portland,
Okay.
Southeast Portland, Oregon, in a neighborhood called Eastmoreland. Beautiful,
Okay.
beautiful neighborhood. Okay.
Okay.
So we didn't have like homeless people. We didn't have the alcoholics and the drug addicts wandering around my neighborhood by
Right.
any means. It certainly wasn't some weirdo tapping on my bedroom window going, "Hey, wake up! Hey, wake up!" We did.
Right.
I lived in those neighborhoods where you didn't lock your door. You could leave your keys in your car. Kids don't
Right.
come home till it's dark out. That whole
Right.
thing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this
So
was in the 70s, yes?
yes, yes,
60s
yes.
and 70s.
Yeah, 70s. Started in the 70s.
Okay.
So, anyways, this kept happening for quite some time. And one time, while I was under their control, I peed.
Okay.
And isn't this interesting? It absolutely disgusted them. It
I love
disgusted them like the most foul possible thing you can imagine. I
that.
mean,
Right.
imagine if somebody brought you deep fried dog poop for dinner
Oh, yeah.
and you, and you
Wow.
and you took a bite and you went, "Oh my gosh, this is deep fried dog poop. I don't like that. Get away from me." That's the
Right.
same way they reacted when I peed.
So it repelled them.
It repelled them, and they took me back because now it was all over my clothing and my body, and they wanted nothing. And I mean nothing to do with that.
Okay.
So from there forward, whenever they would come for me, if I couldn't pee then, I'd wait later, and I would, and I'd be laying. I'd wake up in my bed with a wet bed,
Right.
but they had left me alone.
Yeah.
This is an odd combination of things, and some might say, well, perhaps it was a dream, and you just had to go to the bathroom, and well, it's an odd concept that I would be dreaming about something that thousands of other people have come forward and said has
Right.
happened to them. Right?
Exactly. Right.
Very interesting.
And how long did this go on for, Johnny?
Oh my gosh. Probably until my early to mid teens. It
Yeah.
was still
10
happening.
years. 10 years at least.
Oh yeah, 10 years at least. Yes, yes. So,
That's
so,
incredible.
so let's move forward on this. I become an adult. I no longer live with mom and dad.
Right.
I've made some poor choices in my life. I was not in a good place. I had 2 children. My sweetheart and I had 2 children, and
Right.
they were living with grandma and grandpa.
Okay.
Same house that I grew up in.
Right.
My daughter had the same room I had.
Yeah.
My daughter was about 5 years old,
Okay.
and she says to me, Daddy, why do the little gray men always come to my window at night and try to get me
Oh,
to go with them? I'm like,
mm,
oh my God. Oh dear. Oh my, you got to be kidding me.
yeah.
She was only 5. She'd never heard me talk about it,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So, and she'll attest to this day
Yeah.
herself that these little gray guys with the gray eyes and the ones with the red eyes, they look at you and that's what would lock you in. Can't move, can't move. But she also had the little gray, black-eyed and red-eyed grays come to the window to dress her. Very interesting. Now let's go ahead and skip many years later. I was in Alaska doing whatever it was. This is
Right.
probably in the early to mid '90s.
Okay.
Well, since I was a child, since my alien encounters, I've
Right.
had a spot on my back that occasionally just feels like I'm being stabbed by a needle, like the tiniest little pinprick, doink,
Okay.
doink, doink, in my back
Right.
for the longest time, my whole life. Because it's just, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's a nerve, maybe I got a
Sure.
sticker or something got me. Well, I
Right.
couldn't take it anymore. I went and saw a doctor,
Okay.
and he did find something in my back. It
Okay.
was a tiny, let's say twice, maybe 3 times the size of a grain of sand, but
Okay.
a perfectly shaped crystal
Okay.
embedded in my back.
Okay.
So it didn't, a crystal typically has a point at one end and flat on the other. This was
Right.
perfect, let's say pill shaped, but
Okay.
with angles cut in it like diamonds.
Okay.
So
That's
that was
really unusual. Yeah.
that is very unusual, and that began when the alien visitation began.
Okay.
So as far as I'm concerned, they put a tag in me, some kind of a
So,
monitor.
a
Yeah,
tracking device or monitor or something. Right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So what happened after that was taken out?
The owie in my back stopped.
Yes.
No, honestly, I haven't had a visit since.
Okay.
Um, I certainly the pain went away, and it's the interesting about the pain is it wasn't an all the time thing. It was as
Right.
though it's being turned on and turned off.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was being activated somehow. But no, I haven't had a visit from the Greys since the crystal was removed from my back. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Now, I want you to just share a little bit about conversation with your brother about this, because we talked about this before.
Yeah, but Holly, at the moment, I don't really recall how that went.
Okay.
I would love to do that. I'm on some medications right now because I'm having some
That's okay.
memory issues.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So, your brother, if it's okay that I share this, your brother
Yeah.
actually said that he would actually pee on your bedpost
Oh, you're
to help
right.
you,
Now I remember.
because he was the one that believed you about the aliens. He actually did believe you because he saw them. He saw them.
Right.
And
Right.
he remembered you trying to tell your mom and dad, and he saw their reaction. And so he didn't say anything for quite a long time, because he realized it's not going to help Johnny if I say, they're going to think I'm nuts too. They're not going to listen to me. So he decided that he was going to try and be a good brother and try and help you out. So he actually peed on your bedposts to
Yeah.
try and repel them from coming near you.
Yep. He
So
certainly
he
did.
was trying
Thank
to help
you.
you. So it wasn't just you that went through that. Your brother went through it as well.
Thank
That
you,
he,
Holly. Thank you for
yeah,
reminding me. Yeah.
yes.
Oh my gosh.
That's no, for the listeners, I've heard this story from Johnny before, and it was the first time he'd ever shared this in this manner. And his brother contacted me. So this information came directly from Johnny's brother. And he was in awe because this was such a difficult, traumatic experience for the family, for you and your brother. And to not be believed, number one, and to not have any way to get help. And as a child, to feel helpless is unacceptable and horrific. And to go through this for 10 years, Johnny, of course it infected you. Of course there was impact on your mind and on your feelings, because that's traumatic. That's traumatic. Everything about that is traumatic. It was not by choice. You were not feeling safe, warm, and fuzzy. This was uncomfortable. And it doesn't matter what all happened afterwards. The fact that it happened at all is awful. And I want people to feel like this is a place you can talk about that, because this is part of the reason why I constantly harp on this one subject. Please listen to your kids. It may sound fantastical what they're saying to you. Please listen to them. And if the peeing thing works, by God, pee the bed. If that's what it takes to stay away, I'm putting pee pads down and I will pee my own bed. I'm just going to say in public right now, if that's what it'll take to keep them away. I don't want to be checked. I don't want to be measured. I do not want to be followed. They can do their thing. I would like to do mine without all that nonsense. Thank you.
Right. Now, Holly, refresh my memory.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong. So we talked about this before, and
Yes.
and we talked about the bed peeing, and then
Yes.
my brother, I might be kidding. Then my brother watched the podcast.
Yes.
And then he contacted you and told you that he had been peeing in my bed to protect me. But I didn't know before then, did I?
No, you did not.
I just found out.
Amazing. This was one of those, like, the secret of childhood, and you both went through different things, but it was never discussed. You guys never had this, hey, remember when conversation until the podcast. And so it was awe-inspiring to me, because your brother was so emotional about the story, and he was so proud of you for talking about it in public, because it was important, and it is still important, because now as a grown-up, you're saying, I wasn't full of crap. I know what I saw. I know what I felt. I know what they did. I know what happened. And people need to listen, because it's important that we understand that there are things that happen in this world that we don't have an explanation for, that we can't necessarily prove, but you know that you know.
Yeah, I agree. That's just it. Is there's so much we don't know.
Correct.
Right? And some of those things that we do know are those that I know to myself what I experienced. To other people, they can doubt it all they want. I have no doubt whatsoever. Stepping back about the brother but again, isn't that just awesome that all these years went by and he never said a word to me about it? He never clued me in. It was his own personal private secret. He sought no glory. He sought no heroism. He sought no fame. He sought no gifts, nothing. It was just his own little secret, and he waited until we were over the hill.
Yes.
To say something. Wow.
Yeah.
He and I have had our issues over the years, and we've gone back and forth.
Siblings do.
Yeah, like siblings do. But at this juncture, we're really good to go, and we've really been bonding, and that conversation really helped with that.
Yeah, I'm glad. Well, because genuinely, there's things about childhood's kind of amazing. I mean, we have this sense of wonder and this very free, everything is possible, everything is amazing, and discovery is constant, and there's a lot of excitement and fun about being a kid. And then there's some things that really set you back on your heels and make you go, oh. But part of that is just becoming an adult. But these types of experiences, seeing things that are out of the norm and very unusual, these are just as real too. This is just as real as your first date. This is just as real as, the first time you get a leg cramp because your bones are growing so fast, your muscles are trying to fight to keep up. I mean, these are struggles that we need to be able to talk about.
They are. And here's something cool is, there's lots of avenues to talk about them as well. It can be uncomfortable to talk to your coworker, family member, your clergy, whoever you may contact, right? Your medium, right?
Yes.
Okay. But I found an outlet. I grew up in a very exciting, interesting family. I grew up in a very, I was very black sheep of my family. So what I've done is, as I've gotten older, I got into the music industry. I've gotten into the entertainment industry.
Right.
And I'm finding a lot of people like me
Yes.
within that community. And
Yes.
what a great way to let go of any of that fear,
Yes.
anger,
Yes.
questionability. You can
Yes.
write it into a song. You can act it out on a stage. You can beat some drums up over it or play a guitar to it or
Right.
whatever you'd like to do. But I've been
Yes.
so blessed to be part of that.
Yes,
And because I've
absolutely.
really met some fantastic folks. I have I have a friend that I might direct him towards you, and it may help him to talk to somebody.
Sure.
Um, he experienced grays when he was young too, and he rarely even turns on a television because just the mere sight of an image rendition of one terrifies him. He can't
Oh,
see a bumper sticker with an alien head on it or anything, and he won't get too deep onto what happened with him. But
right. But
bless
that's
his
okay.
heart, bless his
Yeah.
heart, and maybe sometime he can find that outlet to release that
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
get happy with himself.
I would be happy to listen to him because one of the things that I'm finding that I love about the generation that we're in, Johnny, is that we're getting back to being a little more open about talking about the woo-woo subjects.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a big influx in the late 60s and early 70s to talk about UFOs flying around the air, but there wasn't a whole lot of conversation about what came out of them. And it's taken us 40 years to get to where what comes out of them. There's a movie that I love called Jupiter Ascension, where they show a woman who's being probed just briefly. They want to check her DNA
Yeah.
basically in this movie. And it's a fantastical situation. It's hard to fathom, but in the split second of an eye, everyone that sees them is not able to remember, and they move on to the next scene, and there had been this big explosion in a building and all these things happen. And in the movie they want you to understand that the Greys have technology that's so advanced that they can flash, do like the Men in Black thing and
Yeah.
flash your memory
Oh, I
and
fully
cause you
believe
to
it.
forget details,
Hmm.
and cause things to be repaired in a split second that would take us years to fix.
Yeah,
And
I
so
agree.
that whole concept, and like in the movie The Men in Black, the whole, like I was just mentioning, the whole flash and then your memory's gone. Our minds are kind of incredible. I work as a hypnotherapist, and genuinely it seems like magic, and to me it's almost like a perm. Well, how is it that you can put a piece of plastic in someone's hair and do this and put some stinky stuff on there and poof, they're curly and it stays that way? That's magic,
It
right?
is magic.
But it's like, and then there's your brain, and you just relax and make suggestions and they stay. I mean, whoa,
Yeah,
that's
right.
the brain is kind of amazing. And so if someone else, if another energy, another creature, another person, a humanoid, whatever, had already tapped into the technology of how to do that in a split second, wow. And I go, like you're saying, picking apart the subject matter. If you sit and think about it and wonder, okay, well, if we're not the first humanoids, because clearly we're not, there's too much evidence to show the earth has been occupied. If there's other humanoids that are far more technically advanced than we are, then why wouldn't that be possible? Why wouldn't they be able to put a tiny something in the back of a person's body to track them without them ever realizing it?
Right. I agree. I
Why
agree.
not? To me, it's more possible than not possible. And so,
Well,
yeah,
so let's suppose, and we're just supposing,
right,
let's suppose that these are our creators. Let's suppose that, and I'm not saying I subscribe to this, it's just a thought that
right,
came to mind.
sure,
Suppose we are a hybrid with an intergalactic species and
right,
and an earthly ape. Suppose we are created.
right,
Suppose DNA is what will be retrieved, and this is
right,
interesting because that's part of Prometheus. You know,
yeah,
the alien film Prometheus, And that's kind of what that was about. Was that?
Is it? I haven't seen it yet. I don't think.
Oh,
Okay.
everything was. Well, it's a combination of. It has to do with the movie Aliens.
Okay. Okay.
But but it's not. It's not focused around those aliens. It's more focused about realizing how life happened, where it came from, who we are, who we're destined to be.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, if we were created, if you get to put the ingredients into the bowl before you mix them, you can choose which ingredients they are, and what they will do and how they will activate. Right? So why not? Why not? One may say, I've heard this before, the term God is actually pronounced Goat. That it's pronounced in Egyptian as Goat.
Yeah.
And that is and it's also been said that as an alien phrase for a different species, intergalactic species.
Interesting.
Right? So let's take that, and I don't want to get too far into spirituality because I don't want to scare anybody. But hey, we're already talking about aliens and Bigfoot, so whatever.
Right.
So let's suppose that it says that this creator will come back to reclaim its creation. Okay, we'll call it God will return to reclaim his children. Now let's go over here. This alien thing that created humans on this planet will return to collect the DNA, and all of its little tags it's put in people to collect information.
Interesting.
See how those are the same thing? It just depends on which book you read them from.
Yes. Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fascinating, and genuinely, I find that everything to do with the paranormal ends up having threads connecting to other things.
Yes.
I've had several people that are in the Bigfoot phenomenon world, that's their focus in the paranormal, and they have said, many have said, in fact, a recent interview that you will love, by the Squatch father, Al Santoriga from New York.
Yeah.
He's wonderful. And he has said that after over 40 years of researching Bigfoot and Dogman, he's come to understand that there are links to aliens, and there's links to other creatures that he's encountered in his research and in his discoveries and in his excursions, I guess you'd call them. It's not really hunting. It's more of an expedition, I guess.
I like that.
These expeditions. And he's finding all these multiple links to all these fantastical creatures and entities. They all seem to be interconnected.
I agree.
Why wouldn't we be connected to this fantastic system of amazing things? Because our bodies and brains are amazing. So why wouldn't other amazing things be around us as well?
Right.
Yeah.
We don't know everything. We just certainly don't. You know, here's something interesting, Holly. You realize how small the state of New York is?
Yeah.
It's tiny. It's Oregon. Yeah. We live in Oregon, are you in Oregon or Washington?
I'm in Washington.
Well, here in the Pacific Northwest, our Oregon, our Washington, these are rather large states.
Oh, yeah. Huge.
Did you know that the entire population of our planet could fit in New York?
What?
The entire population of Earth.
You mean like standing next to each other kind of fit? Is that what you mean?
With an arms, and I just was looking into this yesterday. That's giving an arm's distance, so everybody has their own space.
Oh my goodness.
The entire inhabitants of the planet Earth would all fit in New York. Ugh. So now look at how much.
Wrap my brain around that. That's incredible.
Isn't that something? Isn't that something? Now just look at all of the explored territory.
Unexplored and unoccupied, yes.
Unoccupied and unexplored territory. We like to think that we're all over this planet, and we are, but we're mostly in these groups.
Yes.
Cities and what have you, right?
Right.
Where I live, I can, within 10 minutes of walking out my door, I'm in absolute wilderness forest.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
there is so much on this planet that we don't know. They're finding new species all the time.
Yeah. It's incredible. Yeah. And just the stuff in the ocean. Every time I see something about the ocean, it's mind boggling. All the undiscovered plants and animals they've been there forever. We just haven't seen them yet.
I'm
Yeah.
not sure if some of them I think might be from elsewhere, and some of them that project light. Some of your deep Mariana
Oh,
Trench
yeah. Like the
type
ones that
creatures.
glow.
They glow. They're see-through.
Yes.
Some have no heart, no lungs, no
Isn't that
brain,
crazy?
and no bones. Yet
And
they're
how do they
alive.
function? Yes.
What if they're not creatures at all? What if they're some kind of vessel?
Right.
Do,
It's
do
incredible.
people ponder this? They might look at some kind of weird jellyfish or octopus or something of that nature and go, "Oh, what a neat creature." You might not be looking at a creature. You might be looking at a spacecraft for all you know, right?
Right.
For all,
Anything's
because
possible. Yeah.
the way we look at things as humans is only things that we've created are real, and
Yeah.
that's what everything will be. Like this, if I was to think of a spacecraft again, we're
Right.
talking about rocket fuel. We're
Right.
talking about jet fuel. We're talking about
And metal.
and
And yeah.
metal and
Yeah.
wiring and all that
Right.
stuff. That's just because that's how we do it on this planet.
Right.
That doesn't mean somewhere else might have come up with something, a gelatinous form that is
Right.
actually communicates within itself about everything, you know?
Yes, exactly.
One
It's
of my
incredible.
recent things that I loved, I know it's just TV and it's just, it's Hollywood, but they
Right.
had that Star Trek, that newer Star Trek. It was a series, and they had developed what they called mycelium drive.
Okay.
Are you familiar?
I think so. It does ring a bell. Yes, I think
So
so.
mycelium is your network of threads created
Okay.
by fungi spore. That's
Okay.
what grows mushrooms.
Okay.
Mushrooms are the fruiting bodies of mycelium,
All
and
right.
so they came with this idea for this new type of spacecraft that was powered through mycelium, and with instead of it going a spacecraft going from point A to point B, but having to go around all these planets and stars and other
Right.
things throughout the galaxy, it
Right.
it it flipped into a mycelium thread where it could jump from thread to thread to thread. And what an
Right.
odd way to think outside the box. That's what I'm getting
Yes.
at. Is it's
Yes.
so outside the box that the
Yes.
things that we think are the end all say all might just be scratching the surface and nothing
I
more.
agree. I agree. And that's what's fun about the paranormal is that it's unlimited. It's unlimited. Yeah.
It is indeed.
And I love getting to share stories and hear stories. I hear new stories every week and I love it. I love it because it's fun. It makes me feel like a little kid in my heart because there's all this new information and all these new possibilities. And I love to be able to share that with people. I think it's a delight. I thank you, Johnny, so much for coming back. It has been wonderful to spend time with you again. And we will do this again. We've got more good stories we can talk about and share, but I think that this is a good point for us to just say thank you for all our listeners. Thank you for everyone that's watching. And if you want to hear Johnny's music, Johnny, tell people how they can find you.
Well, my band is called The Quits. I would
Okay.
highly suggest it. Just go to any of your media outlets and type in The Quits. You can't miss it. It'll have our logo of a young lady that we call Malicious Quits, green hair, and a fancy hat. You can't miss it.
Nice.
We love you. QUITS, The Quits. All right. We love you guys.
Thank you so much. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Holly's Pandorium. If you have stories to share, you can find me on hollyspandorium.com, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also listen on Spotify and our wonderful Metal Cross Radio at radioking.com. Thanks again for listening.